It was around 1 p.m. when, for lunch, I had what was basically imitation crab ramen. With that, as usual, some zesty day roll and fiery peri-peri spice from the Man Crates Company, sprinkled into and mixed into the ramen before I mixed the imitation crab meat in. It was around 6 p.m. when Mom prepared some fish fillets for me in the oven. This was around the time she left to go see her friends somewhere. And Dad went to Salvatore's before he went to pick me up. He picked me up around 8:30 p.m. These factors combined to give me time to do a room tour, like I do occasionally. I recall doing it from around the period between 6 and 7 p.m. I ended up breaking a sweat while moving around my room in order to do the room tour. I think after filming that room tour, if I recall correctly, yesterday's my dinner video uploaded maybe about 8 or so hours ago. Either way, the HD version of that video is still being processed by YouTube. Usually this is something that gets resolved within minutes. I'm not 100% sure what the problem is. I generally didn't work on any styrofoam drawings. By the way, Dad got the fried dough from Salvatore's as a sort of dessert to come with dinner tonight. After he was done with Salvatore's having some beers, after work. I estimate he was done with work about 6 p.m. Around the time I had the fish fillets, I initially had an idea to also prepare some ramen to go with, to put the fish fillets in, because ramen is a sort of soup, and soup is a good thing to have because it goes well for putting the spices Mom got me from the Man Crates company last Christmas. I've recently fallen in love with them. As a matter of fact, I put just the Zesty Day Abril on these fries and this Whopper. That were part of a family bundle coupon that Dad used at the drive-thru at the Burger King we went to when he picked me up. And with me, I brought the barely started styrofoam drawing project that I started at Pin Chasers the other day, as well as the piece of styrofoam I plan to use to make the Rochester symbol in the colors of the Ukrainian flag. I also brought along with me the Man Crates spices, all three, even the explosive habanero spice that I haven't used yet. The spices don't seem as compatible with solid food as it was with soup, but it'll take some more experimenting. Dad did say something about putting the spices on steaks another day, and he planned on using one of those Man Crate spices to spice up the fries before he ended up falling asleep. Dad ended up going to the drive-thru at our usual Burger King location. One of them anyway. Because their dining area ended up being closed. The restaurant in general was closed. There didn't seem to be much of an explanation as to why the dining area was closed. It either had something to do with the COVID-19 pandemic, or maybe something needed to be cleaned up or maintained for the dining area. Either way, Dad ended up finding out that the drive-thru is faster than going into the dining area to wait in line. Though you also wait in line in the drive-thru. It turns out Dad typically went into the dining area because he assumed that was faster than going through the drive-thru, when I think typically the opposite is true. You get faster service if you go through the drive-thru, I think. At least that's what I've heard. I have some fears that I'm not going to be able to get this evolvable building to level 10, even though at this point it only requires one more artifact. Which requires me to... which essentially requires me to get to here. Though by this point, that could be needing to break into the Silver League, or at least get close to that. I'm not entirely sure how those in the Gold League managed to do it, but I suspect it may have something to do with some pay-to-win mechanics. There's a building you can place in your city for, I think, either most likely world money that whenever this appears and you collect it, like right here, you'll get one more Sky Essence from collecting it. On average. And that could make a real difference. And you can also spend diamonds to get it outright, though I'm not going to do that. I prefer to instead save up my diamonds for premium expansions. In the mid-afternoon, I used my hands to tear an old styrofoam drawing away from a bigger connecting piece in order to make that old styrofoam drawing independent. I can't do that for another such styrofoam drawing project within my room, but it helped, though doing that resulted in me having to restore the engraving. I'm putting the old in the United States, the date is month, day, year. I ended up with a thick or chisel tip Sharpie marker. I ended up accidentally extending it over to the original styrofoam drawing, and a bit of the black ink grazed the hair of that original styrofoam drawing, although it's still perfectly fine, and maybe that bit of black ink will fade over time to make it more in line with how it originally looked. In regards to deciding to eat the fish fillets on their own instead of mixing them into ramen, what primarily made the difference was I was afraid taking the extra time to prepare more ramen it would result in me not having enough time to squeeze in a room tour today. That, and you don't want to eat ramen too often, though that was the secondary concern. Due to the powder that turns the water into a sort of chicken broth, instant ramen tends to have quite a bit of sodium. Aside from the man crate spices, I also brought along with me the ramen that was left in that big tall pantry area. With Dad and I to Dad's place. And when Dad came to pick me up, by that point I had also brought some extra clothes with me too. Primarily stuff I had worn the other day. While I was at Mom's place over the past handful of days prior to Dad picking me up. In this cup, Dad also gave me shortly after we got back, which it was sometime between, I think it was roughly around 9 p.m. or so. Dad gave me in this cup a mixture of, if I recall correctly, it was a mixture of olive oil, V8, magnesium, and zinc. Magnesium and zinc droplets. That you typically put into and mix into water. It tasted pretty good. That mixture Dad made.